Good morning, I'm François Mailleux. I head up the device department at Orange.
That's it? You can say a bit more. Do you want to say a bit more about what that is, what you do, what sort of devices, how you're going to cope with Apple?
No comment. So the way I came today to this conference is basically to ask you and have your questions about how the world of devices is shaping up and how it can actually help your business. What are the fundamental trends about the market going forward? And also how these new technologies, platforms, cloud computing, etc., come together in a device. I think you all probably have some questions around how do I manage my fleet of devices, or for smaller companies, what platform do I go for? How do I actually build a strategy around devices? How can an operator help me and guide me through this choice? What level of support am I entitled to get? What should I get? Who is the best player in the marketplace to effectively support my business in the longer run?
Great.
So that's what we're doing, and we're here today.
Barrett.
Hi, I'm Barak Rabinowitz, CEO and founder of Amuso.com. Amuso produces digital game shows. These are live, social, pay-to-play games with big TV titles like the BBC Weakest Link. And we use them to acquire customers at a very low cost, cross-promote and upsell them for 1,000% ROI. Our team comes from Google, Yahoo, and AOL, and we're backed by strategic angel investors as well as Mangrove Capital Partners out of Luxembourg. And I'm happy to talk about trends in social gaming and social applications and how your businesses can use those, not just to promote your brands, but also to commercialize and generate revenue in its own right.
I hope we haven't heard much about Google. No one really knows much, so tell us.
So I'm obviously not doing a good job. So my name is Obi Felton, and I'm Director of Consumer Marketing for Google. So my job is to get consumers to use more Google products as they come out and
that's
grow.
That's not going very well, is it?
No. So my team looks after search, Chrome, Maps, mobile, and pretty much anything that will hit us as our PMs produce more and more products. I've worked in the internet since 1998, and Google's probably the biggest company I've worked on with, but not the least entrepreneurial. But I've mostly worked in online retail. So 1999 to 2001, I worked for an online startup called eToys. We sold toys online at a loss. So I helped to set up the company in Europe in 99 and then helped to close it down in 2001. So it was kind of the first double. And then I worked as a consultant, mainly with big and small companies, helping them grow their online operations. And then I was head of e-commerce at Signet. So I set up e-commerce for H. Samuel and Ernest Jones. So my favorite thing about switching to Google is that I went from selling crap jewelry online to giving away great products for free, which I thought was a good career move. And in terms of like trends, I'm happy to talk about anything to do, with online advertising, obviously, online marketing. I'm an online marketer myself. In fact, I did my first offline campaign last December for Google Chrome. But in terms of like the things that I thought are really interesting in terms of big trends is one, cloud computing that we heard Josh speak about. We at Google, we love it, we embrace it. We use Gmail and Calendar and Docs ourselves as our internal system, so we really do believe in it. And I think one to add to that, what Josh was talking about is like that we're also increasingly seeing software moving from the desktop into the browser. So Gmail, you could kind of look at as a software. It's giving you all the functionality that in the old days would have been done by a client, and that's one of the things that we see accelerating this year as more and more things will move into the browser. My second trend is data is cool and is freely available. So as a small company, when I was doing research, for instance, for startups, it was very hard to find research, to find industry research or find out what the demand might be for your product. And now you can do that through free tools. So for instance, Google Insights for Search, you can look at what people are searching for. So if you want to sell a new sort of green energy widget, you can see whether people are actually searching for those kind of things. You can also look at Twitter trends, see what people are talking about. So that's something that I think is very different from even a few years ago, that you have access to this real-time data for free. And then the third trend, I think, is mobile. We're seeing huge amounts of searches coming onto mobile, and for about 5 years, people have been saying this is the year of mobile, but I think this year actually is the year of mobile. Both in terms of the phones getting better, smartphones allowing you to really use the internet properly, as well as other devices becoming mobile, so little netbooks and so on.
Great, Martin.
My name is Martin Raymond. I come from a company called the Future Laboratory, which is a consumer insight network. I suppose our focus is really looking at how consumers are increasingly looking at this industry. For example, real-time searches, actually not real-time search, real-time operations last year, people spent 9 billion just between the times they were actually in their office, for example, at bus stops, in cars, on trains. So if you think about how it's opened up the landscape in terms of how people behave, is really quite interesting. And last night, I noticed a thing called app envy, where two people in a bar were fighting over the number of apps that they had on their mobile phone, which I thought was quite interesting, that increasingly we forget how quickly the market moves on. Some of us are still talking about social retailing, and yet we have people talking about app envy, and also a doctor who has prescribed apnea, which is basically people suffering from a fear of apps. So I think what we need to kind of look at as well is what we talk about the impact, or is the social implication of it. And I think increasingly as businesses, we need to look at what the social implications are, and that's where the opportunity will lie in terms of creating the next generation of products.